Yeah, so we got to talk about this Liangelo thing, man.
You might be surprised that I have a different thought on it than you would probably.
So, all right, so what do you think is going to happen with Jello? Let's
You might be surprised for me saying this. I'm going to say this right now. It's all up.
okay.
I can't. It's too early to say this thing because I don't think this program combine combine. Oh my gosh, can't even say the word correctly. But I don't think it's gonna count really for anything. I think the private practices are what actually matters because
Okay.
thing he's playing against other players who what he can easily body, and I think they might allow him to do some kind of practicing with the team to see if he could match up to their caliber. I just don't see like I said, this mattering that much.
The combine for me was let's see how many teams are going to give him an interview. Let's see how many teams will give him a workout. It was that simple.
Yeah.
And I feel like the teams that gave him a workout, they were going to give him a workout irregardless. I mean, unless he just came to the combine and was terrible, I guess they were going to give him a workout. Like I think the Lakers, they sent a scout to his game overseas, to one of his games overseas. I think they were going to give him a workout. The Clippers, I mean, another local LA team, that doesn't surprise me. The Golden State thing, I don't know what to make of that.
Uh, they already corrected the news. The Golden State Warriors denied the whole him working out with them. So
Yeah, I didn't know what to make of that. I was like, okay,
I mean,
whatever.
actually, I was kind of happy. I wanted him to actually go to the Golden State Warriors because, like, when I see his game, and I'm not
Yeah,
like, saying I'm a professional like most of these guys on Twitter do, but when I see his game, I realize he's like a player who comes off the bench who has to be around talent. He cannot be around younger players. He can't because he would easily get exposed. And
I
he can't
think
he can't create off the dribble. That's something I do know. He has to have a point guard, which is why Lonzo works, and this is why Steph Curry would work, and a lot of the Warriors would work because they're all good at passing. So he has to be in a team. Like the Clippers would be a terrible team for him, and that's why. So yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
it's interesting that the Clippers even want to work him out. They just extended Doc Rivers, and Doc has said some really negative things about LaVar Ball. So I'm like, what is the play there? Is that Jerry? Like, I'm just like, who in the Clippers organization wants to work out Liangelo Ball? I'm really curious about that.
That's the thing, which I think teams are interested in him, but they don't think he's worth a pick.
Right.
That's the thing. They think they want to test him out this because he brings in money. Also, they could just pick him up, and he would if he
Right.
does play well. That's another benefit because then he could be a
Yep.
part of the young talent. Like think about it, the Clippers want to do this last year, which would be amazing. Get a 13th pick, a 14th pick, another second round draft pick that worked out well, and then they can get Liangelo if he worked out well. Think about that. That's 4 new players, and they're paying low amounts and getting high ticket price. It would work to their advantage. So
And I think there's got to be some of this in there because things LeVar said publicly. I wonder how many teams that were already interested in Lonzo Ball are looking at Leandro like, hey, that might be our
no
Lonzo Ball
teams.
ticket. There were teams already. No, look, think about this. There were teams willing to trade players for Lonzo Ball. Like there were teams that inquired to the Lakers. We know this because it's been said publicly by different, outlets that there were teams around the trade deadline
And then
that
take the
were
dang
willing to
contract.
trade away
Yep.
assets for Lonzo Ball
Yeah.
and take the Dane contract. Right. So I'm like, if they were willing to take a Dane contract when Dane is making like, I think over
Yeah.
the next 2 years, he's going to still get
I mean,
paid like what, $30 million? Why wouldn't they look at
now
Liangelo
here's the thing.
like, you know what? This might be an
Here's the
easier
thing.
path.
Based
We
on
might
talent
find
alone right
Lonzo
now,
Ball if we.
and I'll be 100% honest with you, I don't see him getting drafted. And that's not me being awful or anything. Like what I mean by that is teams are not brave enough to just take him. Like they're not. This is like
you're gonna take a lot of public scrutiny,
and that's the problem with the LaVar thing. That's why I get a little tight on LaVar sometimes. He has like with the team. In order for anyone to praise their pick of him, he would have to perform not kind of Kyle Carver type. Like there were dudes online naming all-stars and saying, look at their performance in the draft. I'm like, wow, okay. You just named future Hall of Famers for a guy who I think at best is going to be a Kyle Carver. Like wow. So you have to understand, when they hear his name, they're not looking for okay. Plus, people keep on saying Clay, but Clay is also like 3 inches taller than him, which is a big improvement, which is a reason why the Warriors would have taken him. So there is disadvantages. I call him a PJ Tucker. And so at the same time, that's why, because he has to be in a team full of talent. Yeah. He's a spot-up shooter. He could not be in a team full of young players that don't have any, like a real, like a LeBron or a Steph. He has to be the spot-up shooter. So that's why, because he's not fast. He's not fast. The way he moves his feet is slow. He was like a 12, and when I looked at it, he was like 2 seconds later than most players, but he has to work on that, which is going to be easy. But you see, that's the problem. That's the only problem he has.
Here's the thing. It's two things. Because this is kind of like an evolving discussion I've had about discussing, like when I've talked about the other two Ball brothers, right? Lonzo, LaMelo, Liangelo, right? So one part is what you already touched on, is the fact that the public scrutiny and the public outcry is like, if you draft this dude, you're going to be, on, major media platforms, or you're going to be a discussion on major media platforms on a weekly basis. You know what I mean? It turns on the microscope to your coach, your general manager, like everybody. And then, right. And then if you draft this kid and some kid after him plays a little bit better, people are going to be like, why'd you pick?
That's why I said the Warriors, it would be the safest thing for the Warriors, because who gives a fuck? Like the Warriors would still be the Warriors. He would get better.
Yeah.
And
nobody would care.
Well, look at Liangelo. They're winning. Who cares?
Right.
Like, and also, I had this argument on Instagram. This guy goes, "We can't take this." This is a Warriors fan. "We can't take this. Oh my gosh, I will just quit being a Warriors fan." And I'm like, "Word? Is that all it takes? Is it like?" I said, "Remember that Monte Ellis thing when you guys said you want to quit being Warriors, and all of a sudden you got these great players, even to where Monte Ellis said if he stayed, they wouldn't have won a ring." So I'm trying to understand why you guys had short-term memories. And that's why I just look at this and I'm like, okay.
Right. So drafted Liangelo, it would be because they think they can do something with him. And I don't understand. I would feel like Warriors fans, they should have enough faith. Like, how much faith do you need to build up? I mean, they drafted future Hall of Famers at this point. Like, they have several future Hall of Famers. So for some reason, they drafted Liangelo Ball. It's probably because
the guy said this is the hilarious part.
That's
he was like, "Well, LaVar won't be able to shut his mouth." I mean, his mouth about how much you guys are winning, and he's like, "But that's annoying." I'm like, "How is that annoying?" Like, what do you? He says because the Warrior fans don't brag, and I'm like, "Oh my, you did not just say that." You did not just say that. I tell you, people will make excuses to why they don't want something without actually looking at it.
Oh yeah, that right there is just like, that's that attitude where it's just like, okay, really I don't want LaVar to be successful,
and that's why I said he cannot. And I mean this.
This is.
And this, I mean this in the best of hearts. I think the best thing for Liangelo is not to get drafted.
I don't know if the play is for him to get drafted or not. I mean, I'm assuming that's his goal for sure.
No, this is the thing.
I think
let's not
get
delusional here. The second draft picks never end up being anything anyways. I don't know why people are starting to treat the second draft like you get magic. Like, you don't get that. Like, you usually end up getting bench players.
Not the outliers. They're like, oh well, Draymond
Like
Green,
close.
Isaiah Thomas. You know what I mean? Like that's the norm.
But the
Oh
Lakers
man,
aren't getting
like how many times has
the
that happened?
first, second round group. They're getting mid. You don't get like good players out of mid. Usually you just get like the shorter, good shooters if you're looking to like fill up your bench. Like, and I'm also wondering
When you're talking about second round, hopefully you get a role player, and if you hit a home run, you get somebody like a Manu Ginobili. You know what I mean? Or
here's the thing
Draymond
with
Green,
second
or
round
even
groups,
Isaiah.
it's up to the organization to make those players better. That's usually what those are made for. So second round to Spurs, it's actually a bit of valuable. Second round to Knicks is not valuable. Second round to Lakers,
Right.
I don't know now. It's a new organization, but that's what I'm saying. It's who handles these second round groups.
Right. Yeah. It's about how they develop.
No,
Yeah, some of these organizations don't even develop their young guys really. You know what I mean? They give up on them real quick.
yeah.
They'll
Like,
trade
you know
them
what
in
I
a
had to
couple of
do?
years anyway.
And this is why I'm not even getting off the Liangelo topic. But Liangelo and Liangelo can't come in the league averaging less than 5 points. He just can't. He can't. Because here's the thing. Even though Dirk, Kawhi, Kobe, all of these players, like perfectly all average 8 points. Steve Nash averaged 3 points, gave you 2 assists and 1 rebound on average. That is not good. But guess what? They didn't cut him off and kick him out of a team. So I wrote that to people who say, oh, that's a bust. That's bust numbers. I was like, well, I guess Kobe wouldn't be in your team for long. So it just puzzles me. That's why they're judged differently.
When you watched Liangelo play, like, okay, there's a lot of different things. Number one, there's LaVar hate, right? Then there's, just, oh, I hate the subject of the Ball brothers that he's dealing with. But then even amongst the Ball brothers, like let's split them up as separate entities. Like Lonzo is his own thing, Jello's his own thing, Melo's his own thing. Jello,
he's not the most hated. His skills
like
are not sustainable for that family.
Right. And then the other thing is but Jello's the most hated. And I'm gonna say hated, and I'm gonna say why. To me, this is why. Because of the 3 brothers, Jello has brings about the most volatile reactions or most visceral reactions to the idea of him being a decent basketball. Like if I say Lonzo is a good basketball player, like people will come at me a certain way, like Lonzo haters, right? LaMelo haters will come at me a certain way if I say he's a good, but if I say Liangelo is like an average basketball player, like that, like if I say he's an average, regular run-of-the-mill basketball player, people are like, no, he's not.
And I want to keep this 100% with you. And like I said early in the podcast, he has to not get drafted. He just can't. I don't want him to.
Too much pressure, right?
It's just not good because the teams will react differently. I can tell you that. They don't want bad PR. If they pick him up and he's bad, they'll just drop him easily. He's not Lonzo good. So Lonzo good, it's debatable. You're not throwing away Lonzo. Like you hear how ESPN, I'm sorry, your state, your LA sports media is cancer. New York media treats Frank Ntilikina better than the way you guys treat Lonzo. I just never seen that. It's crazy. You guys are already talking about trading him for Kawhi, but enough about that. Just saying that's what I mean by why Liangelo cannot get drafted.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying there. I'm not really into him getting drafted. I think best case scenario to me is he is playing for the South Bay Lakers next year.
Yeah.
That's the best case scenario to me.
Yeah, because no one, like everyone,
that would be ideal. And let him develop a role. Let him learn some defensive techniques. Let him get in the weight room, the training room. Let him, just play consistent minutes every night.
Yeah.
Because
South Bay Lakers, basically.
Yeah. And I feel like over time people would thaw out because right now everyone's just ice cold to this kid, man. Yeah. Like nobody, like everyone right now is just like he's trash. He's my favorite term. Like this is the term I keep seeing all the time. It's just like he's non-athletic, not Not he's
There's a bunch of fat people saying this shit too. It gets me wild. Like, okay, he jumps the top vert of
he's a
36.
non-athletic. He's a non-athletic basketball player. Like, what does non-athletic mean?
First of all,
Like, what do you even?
is higher than Kuzma. And that's saying something. Like, it surprised me when I saw that vert. I was like, whoa, Kuzma's vert was 27, standing vert, and this kid's vert is 29. And but you see most players put their arm all the way up. I'm like, word, is that your way of saying he can't? Wow. So I'm just like there's haters. Like, they won't give him a damn thing. Oh, and one guy wrote, and he's like a big Lakers fan. Oh, he shot 8 in a row from shooting. Oh, with no one guarding him. Word? Is that your problem? It's like, what is the 3-point contest then? It's shocking.
Right. Like, no, we watched him. He can shoot the basketball. That's his one thing that he's elite at. You know what I mean? Like, he can. I've seen him take step backs in games. I've seen him take fadeaways in games. I've seen him stop in space and spot up and shoot. I've seen him catch and shoot.
That's the arm length of 9 and 6, 6 feet, 6'9".
No,
That's
6'9".
decent.
6'9".
That's a long dude.
Yeah. Right. Like, he can shoot. He can guard the post. What he has problems with is sliding his feet.
That could be worked on.
You know,
and that's another thing why I'm not a big fan of LaVar training. I swear to God.
Lateral movement is going to be the key for him. If he can hone lateral movement techniques, cutting off the angle on the ball handler, if he can hone those things, he shoots well enough and he has enough size that if he can just learn how to move laterally,
and that's why he needs to be.
That'll be it. But I think a lot of people
that's why he needs to be in the G League.
For him to learn
he needs to be in any, like, a Euro team. He needs to be in anything, because I don't want LaVar teaching him anything anymore. I really think that is the worst basketball teacher. They're lucky they made it out of something. I'm going to be honest. I know it sounds cruel, but, like, the more I hear about the stories, the more I see this guy, and the more he does teach them, I'm like, you didn't.
Okay, this is what I was literally having this conversation today. This is the thing. I keep telling people this. I'm like, you have to look at the whole picture, okay? And the whole picture is what LaVar gave his 3 sons. What he taught them how to do is play fast break basketball. That's all. It's really that simple. Like, it's so crazy because this ESPN article gets written today about, like, this whole 7 seconds or less movement, top movement, all of these different things, stretching the court, shooting from 35 feet, teaching his sons all of these revolutionary techniques that are being celebrated right now. He was teaching that to his sons from day one. He was a guy that fell in love with Magic Johnson, and that Magic, if you watch, I don't know if you ever watched tape of Magic, but Magic would make these passes. Like, everyone always focuses on the behind the back passes and the no look passes that Magic did, right? All the stuff, all the highlight passes, right? But Magic, throughout the game, he would make these long passes throughout the game. Like those same passes you see Lonzo doing where he throws from 3/4 of the court and there's a post pass into Liangelo, and we see LaMelo do that same pass to Jello, right? Magic would do those passes to Kareem and Worthy throughout the game. Magic was big on advancing the ball.
Yeah.
Okay. No, listen. That is what LaVar. So LaVar took that. He took that and he passed it on to his 3 sons. And they got so good at it in high school. They got so good at it that they broke state records for most 100-point games in the season.
Listen.
They got so good at it. They were playing the toughest. No, listen. They were playing the toughest high school schedule for 2 years in a row. They went 65-3.
Okay, I get you that. But
they had one season where so wait. So then now we go back to LaVar, right? So LaVar taught his sons this, and then they have this crescendo where they win he puts all 3 of his boys on the same team. They go 35-0. They win the state championship. Lonzo's going on to UCLA. that was like, I just feel like when that happened, I'm like, that had to been like just like a defining moment in their whole family, probably, or something. Because I'm just thinking like that was a culmination, so to speak. And now he thinks in his mind that he can do the same type of thing in the NBA. Now, I don't think he can. I don't. But I think there's some aspects that you just got to respect. And the thing is, Jello can play fast
I'm
break.
not saying he can't play that style.
He has innate quality.
What I am saying is that when you see the way they work out, you see the laterals. Like, I'm not going to take credit away from LaVar, but LaVar has this failure thing of when they took him back to Lithuania, he didn't get him a trainer like a real trainer, like a real basketball NBA type trainer, which is important to do.
Right.
Because you want to get ready for the next level, not high school and college.
Sure.
That's my only problem with LaVar. He's a boneheaded person. Like, he's smart sometimes, but he's boneheaded. He will.
I think he would do it. I think he would do it because he like I don't see. It's like it's hard to say what.
Yeah.
All we can go is off of what they say publicly, right? And so LaVar, at one point, LaVar and Coach Seskis were on good terms. And when they were on good terms, he was basically like saying, look, I'm going to leave LaMelo here for the next 3 years. And Coach Seskis is going to teach my son. He's going to take my son to the next level as a basketball player. You remember that? It didn't last long, but that was definitely a narrative, right? Now, I don't know if he really meant that. I don't know how genuine that was or not, or it wasn't. But I'm like, okay, if he really was willing to leave his son with this guy, this guy that was selling meat out of his car, you know what I mean? If he I don't see why he wouldn't leave, because there are some world-class trainers out there that these guys could get with. In fact, I mean, and they have the money to send these guys there. I think a lot of these trainers will do it for free. Just
like LaMelo, the one that needs it the most. Because I watched that video. Liangelo needs it the most. The most.
Yeah.
Not only the combine video, when you watch the Lithuanian games, when it comes except for later in the season, when he had to move side to side, it was terrible. I mean, everything else was amazing. And then he started getting better at that, but I feel like it dropped off because what his dad has him do. Like, I was reading the whole the article from what's that guy's name? Sports Media something? Yeah, he was talking about how they train, and I'm like, oh, if you read it, it sounds amazing if you don't know how see other people training. But it's not intensive.
Yeah, it's not really intensive. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, because a friend of mine, he's a trainer, and I was just talking it over with him, and I was saying, well, I'm like, for LaMelo, that's fine. For a 16-year-old, that's fine. But for Liangelo, who's supposed to be training for the NBA, it's got to be way more.
So I'm saying people got to stop being straight up LaVar stands, because there's sometimes where I'm just like, okay, I am the biggest guy who attack a hater when they come out of left field, but there is criticism you could say, and it doesn't sound like hate. I posted the guy's thing, and it did kind of ring true. He said not a lot of the people were impressed. But I mean, he didn't say impressed. He just said they, thought he wasn't that fast, but they loved his shooting nonetheless. So that's true. I mean, that was nothing wrong.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, he needs work. I guess I get more upset by
those guys know nothing about basketball. They are terrible. They are terrible people.
I know stuff about basketball. They're just like, he's trash. Guys that the opinion that I respect. There's some guys Laker Twitter guys, NBA Twitter guys too, that I respect, and they get into the stats and numbers. They do breakdowns, film work, all of that, right? And they write articles and all of this stuff. And those guys will tweet. I'm telling you, if I start talking about up Liangelo Ball, but I think
they're clowns. They make jokey shit. They say wacky stuff. Even when they talk about Lonzo on their podcast, they go the extra mile. I've never seen two guys talk and act like know nothing completely about basketball. So yes, a dude who will say Kuzma was the reason why the Lakers were winning games when we both saw those games. So I don't need to hear both their mouths talk because they don't know shit. This is why they're talking for the Lakers now.